And we're back, this time with audio and once again forgetting to rename the characters. Without delay, less intro, more video. Harriet's story continues on the 1st of December. The colony's first order of business is to establish a dining area to absolve the colonists of the eating without a table mood debuff. The group would upgrade to dining chairs for increased comfort, but none of our construction skills are at level 4 yet. Harriet is fairly close, but until it's leveled up, they will settle for stools. Also on the to-do list is to isolate the chem fuel so that, should it explode, it will not incinerate the rest of our stockpile. As for the rest of their storage, the colonists move everything down in the base as they prepare to create more rooms. The plan is to organize and construct specialized rooms while finishing our hydroelectric research. By noon that same day, the floors are cleared and the layout is completed for an isolated storage room. The lumber reserves have been and will continue to be depleted, so another deforesting run is scheduled for the crew. Through the early afternoon, the women are producing timber while Paul continues to run the new supplies back to base. Since lumber is plentiful, the colony is without good miners, and removing floor increases their construction skill, the colonists stockpile the steel and will replace it with wooden floors. As can be seen here, Jules has leveled to construction 4, and Harriet is quite nearly there herself. At 2100 hours, a woman with no faction affiliation crashes her pod northwest of the base. Mila, Mila. I'm just going to give it the American pronunciation. Mila, a jungle child who became an aromatherapist, is capable of all labor. Her traits are also rather desirable, with Fast Learner and Iron-Willed. Fast Learner increases her skill gain by 75%, and Iron-Willed reduces her mental break threshold by 18%. She's also a kick-ass horticulturalist, animal trainer, and cook. She's a decent doctor to top it all off. The only downside is she's been an AARP member for at least a couple decades, which means she may not be with the colony for long, and her health tab could be a disaster. Upon inspection, despite her age, she merely has an aching scar on her shoulder. With all this in consideration, she's a solid addition to the team. Since Paul is idle, he sets out to return Mila to a medical bed. Once Mila is rescued, Paul heads to bed and Harriet swaps with him to supervise Mila's health. The 2nd of December rolls around with Harriet and Jules deconstructing the floors. Shortly into their work, they sit to a game of chess. After their game time, while Harriet cooks and Jules continues on the floors, Mila immediately and gratefully joins the family. Given her higher cooking and plant skills, she becomes the designated chef and farmer. In case Mila dies at any point, Harriet will continue leveling her plant skill in order to have a backup for heal root seeding. As the morning continues, the walls for the storage room are installed to lock away the debuffs created by the exposed items. With the construction skills now level to 4 on our builders, dining chairs are also planned for assembly. As a new wardrobe is outlined for Mila, a raid from Ereberium attacks immediately. This group is more advanced than the previous hostile encounters. They are armed with 2 machine pistols, a revolver, and grenades. Colonists take cover in the base and await the assault. Because of the closed doors, one grenade is launched at the defensive, destroying a couple sections of walls. Moments later, the grenadier is dropped, and the machine pistol-wielding attackers make a run for it. The 3 primary colonists rush out to drop these characters. Given that the enemy pawns are about to be meleeed, there's a good chance that they may survive and Pixie's dynasty can consider captures. Looking at their bios, both are very desirable additions to the colony. However, they must survive the relentless beating they're about to receive. Sammy, despite having the nimble trait, was not fast enough to dodge death. Costa, on the other hand, survives and is taken to the former medical dormitory for imprisonment. While Costa is cared for, the rest of the colonists tend to themselves and collect the better armaments. They ignore the frag grenades since they're more likely to cause collateral damage to their environment and utterly destroy salvageable items from fights. As Harriet tends to the prisoner, Mila tends to Paul, and Jules gets the dining chairs assembled. Next, the residents of Ark's Banning Salon prioritize wood aggregation and rearming defenses. The mass grave is also extended. Another reason to get electricity up and running is a crematorium, so the many accumulating corpses of our enemies no longer take up such space. That night, the electromagnetic interference from Jules' escape comes to an end. The following morning, the crew has some visitors while they give Mila a temporary bed in Jules' bedroom. By 6 o'clock, they head out while Mila cooks, Jules crafts, Harriet farms, and Paul heals. At the top of the hour, the north wall is ironed out. As this task comes to its completion, a psychic event triggers the monkeys of the surrounding area to manhunt. This is a blessing in disguise since the food supply is stretched rather thin. Manhunting monkeys are basically a pizza delivery for the colony. Soon, the primates arrive. Jules takes a quick shot out the northern entrance and then locks herself in. Harriet and her lover hold the entrance together and bait one of the hominids into the only rearmed trap. The next one meets its demise in a hail of bullets from the machine pistols acquired from the earlier raid. To congratulate Harriet's survival on the Planet of the Apes, Randy sends 195 units of hops on our southern border. Hopefully, the crew can sell them to a trader before they deteriorate in storage. Additionally, they decide to remove the walls around the storage as it is taking up precious space that they need for the rapidly increasing stockpile and materials for the depleting security trap. The dining area is also repositioned and the security line is roofed over. Early on the 4th, while Jules travels to collect the hops, she gets an intense feeling of dread as she passes a nearby structure. Who knows what this ancient danger may contain? Most of the day passes uneventfully with routine chores such as crop harvesting, and as night settles in, Harriet and Jules converse. Jules comments on lakes. It reminded Mila of this one lake that had crazy cockroaches that made her vomit. The thought of puke inspired Jules to reminisce about this one time she got f***ed up. Just hours later, Harriet is up early as a result of her quick sleeper trait. She helps herself to breakfast and continues felling trees. As she exits the building, she is contacted by the chief of the Abanbavexa Union about drawing the attacks away from his or her caravans. With the defenses in shambles, a prisoner in-house, and the long queue of tasks, this is a quest Harriet will certainly ignore given the weight of the attackers' numbers. As midday simmers by, the defenses are finally operational, and the stockpile of wood can be refilled stress-free. That night after dark, a knight of the Empire of God contacts Harriet in a panic. His guards were slaughtered in an ambush by a man-eating Garfield, and he requires immediate protection in return for a significant royal favor. This would provide Harriet with a psychic ability, but still a low enough rank that it would not screw with her labor or mood. She accepts his offer. Knight Musos arrives, and it becomes plainly evident why he couldn't even handle a house cat on his own, as he is a jealous wimp. The locals wade across the river with weapons drawn and blast the Nibbly Boy. Musos apparently provides his protectors with additional gratitude by assisting with the deforestation. He may be a defenseless wimp, but at least he understands the value of Harriet's assistance and spends a respectable length of time progressing the local tasks before departing to his royal home. After his departure, 2/3 of the main room has had floors installed. And Harriet steps outside to use her neuroformer to form a Psylink. She develops Stun, which seems to be a highly useful ability that interrupts an enemy's movements. Her fellow defenders look forward to seeing this in action. Meanwhile, Mila has harvested the cotton fields and, since food has been strained by the increased colony consumption, she converts said fields to a potato crop. In hindsight, due to fertile sensitivity, it may have been better to upgrade to corn. The colony needs a comparable amount of nutrition to rice that requires less labor, so there is more time to dedicate pawns to base improvement. Work in the jungle continues when a war merchant from the Abanbavexa Union arrives. During their approach, Paul commits to hunting some alpaca to resupply the pantry. He later returns to the completed, albeit messy, interior. He puts down his prey, approaches the traders, and barters all of the excess weaponry for 17 units of herbal medicine. With the food reserves becoming uncomfortably low, Paul uses a similar tactic from one of the previous episodes. He draws the aggression of the nearby rhinos to the friendly traders so that their superior numbers and armaments can do the heavy lifting for the colonists. Unlike the previous episodes, however, these friendlies are poorly equipped compared to the Empire of God's advanced gear. As a result, they suffer a couple deaths, which understandably causes some displeasure with Pixie's dynasty. Again, in hindsight, it would have been better to assist them in killing the 4 meat tanks. Ultimately, Ark's banning Salon has its food stores replenished and can write off that concern, for now. The colony was able to rescue one of the traders from certain death, so, hopefully, fingers crossed, that will recover some of the damaged relations upon release. At 4 o'clock, Randy applies a tad more pressure with a low psychic drone on the females in the area. The morning passes with daily activity. Harriet researches, Mila cooks, Jules crafts, and Paul recruits. The mess from the previous day's clash is gradually scoured. That afternoon, prisoner Costa has a mental break from smoke leaf withdrawals and goes berserk. As she bangs on the door without stop, Jules levels her construction skill. The damage does outpace the repairs, however, so the colonists will need to prepare to reclaim the escapee. Harriet also gets some light leveling on the following door breach, followed by Jules taking position at the next entrance. Costa takes an outstanding barrage of bullets and, remarkably, survives. She is immediately hauled back to her cell. The following morning, Costa's wounds become infected. She is given herbal meds since the colony has purchased a decent stockpile. Moments later, Harriet announces she's completed the design for a watermill generator. At long last, the colony can be properly powered. The base is swept, and the situation is reevaluated. The current issue that is slightly more pressing than the need for electricity is lack of bedrooms. We rescued Mila, captured Costa, and saved Skurabar with only one room to spare. Before anything can be done about it, though, there are daily tasks that need to be maintained. As those chores are attended to, the psychic drone ends around 1500 hours. Hours later, as an additional room is being built, the door to the prisoner's room is moved, and Costa takes this opportunity to make a break for it. At this point, the colonists wonder if she's even worth bothering over anymore. Costa hits the first trap and miraculously survives another brutal injury. Given how many resources the colony has invested in Costa, they decide to give her one last try. Third time's the charm, right? At the very least, she's been useful for medical training. By the end of that night, the new room is planned. Harriet, ever the early bird, is assembling the new bedroom's furniture at 200 hours of the 9th of December. As this chapter comes to a close, the prisoner's infection reaches critical levels, but her immunity is well ahead, so it looks as though she will recover. It's safe to say, one expected this segment to be quite chaotic given Randy's generosity in the previous video. Some mistakes were made in managing the events of this episode. Ultimately, though, progress has been abrasively made. The to-do list for the following chapter is rather stacked, and hopefully, this time, I will remember to rename the characters. As always, thank you for your attention. I hope you are healthy, safe, and fulfilled. I will see you on the next one.